Hey everybody, I'm going to be Skyping with a class at Western Illinois University. I believe it's a broadcasting class, and talking about different things about TV news careers, also stuff about blogging, probably video making, and just whatever questions they have. So I thought, why not roll on it with my own camera and see if anything's relevant that I could put together for my vlog channel. So I'm not going to be looking right at the camera because I'm going to be Skyping with them, so I'll be looking over here, but this camera will be picking up everything I'm saying, I hope. So thanks for watching. Hi, is this working?
Hi Emily, this is Jasmine Garcia.
Hey!
Are you able to see us?
Yes, I can see the class.
Okay, that's what you need to see.
Okay.
Say hi everybody. We're hoping that you would kind of give a little kind of bio on yourself. They do know that you have the beauty broadcast blog and that you've been a news anchor, but kind of how you started out in the business.
Well, yeah, I'm originally from the Western Illinois area, and that's where I grew up, went to high school, went to Monmouth College, which is also not too far from Western, and got my degree in media communication there. And started my job search after I got out of college, and I know a lot of professors tend to advise students, or at least the ones at my school said, you know, if you want to get a job in broadcasting, spread your net wide, try to apply to tons of different places if you can. And that really didn't turn out to be the way it was for me, because I got married actually the summer after I graduated college. My husband got a good scholarship to come down to SIU for law school. So I'm like, okay, what's within driving distance, you know? And it really narrowed down to just 3 stations in the market down here. And so I started applying in that summer, expecting that maybe I would get a reporter position. And because I wanted to use what I'd studied, you know, I'd really like to get a job in the industry. Sent out resume tapes several times over the course of the summer to these stations and heard nothing. And really there wasn't a specific opening. Finally I saw an opening for an associate producer position, which was a part-time position at the station I ended up working at, which is WSIL. I got that job. It was after calling when they said no phone calls please, because I mean I felt like I was desperate. I really wanted something to happen. I went in for the interview. They didn't call me for like a week, so I went ahead and called back again, and I was like, you know, I really need this job. I'll do whatever you want me to do, just get me in there. And so finally that came to pass, and I made sure to tell them, you know, I'd be open to reporting, I'd be open to filling in any way you need me. And that was what ended up happening. I ended up doing some reporting while I was also an associate producer. We're talking like running the studio cameras and editing video. And then I got to do some producing as well, and some weekend anchoring. Eventually became a morning anchor and did that for 4 years. All in all, I was at the station for 6 years. You come in with expectations. I think you get out of school and you've got a vision for what you want to do and where you want to be working and stuff, but I think it's important to know that it's okay to start small, because sometimes that's just what you have to do to get your foot in the door. So that's my story in a nutshell.
That's great. We have a couple of questions from the audience, so we're going to ask a few of them if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay. You want to start, Drew?
Was doing the beauty broadcast something that you always wanted to do?
I think it wasn't something I really ever thought was possible. When I first got into YouTube, it was probably like 2007 or something, and I didn't really even know that this type of thing, that I would ever have a career, make a career out of, really based on a YouTube channel. So I didn't know that you could eventually profit from making YouTube videos or any of that. I just knew I happened to stumble across some makeup related videos in probably mid to late 2007, and I thought, I like this. I want to try to do this myself. And it just kind of grew from there. What I did with Beauty Broadcast was definitely not any kind of overnight viral sensation like, you know, you see some things. I mean, it was something that grew steadily but slowly over from 2007 on to now.
I have a follow-up to that. What did you expect when you first started that blog?
I just thought it was going to be a real hobby sort of thing. I could tell that there was a small community at that time of people who were interested in makeup and sharing advice and stuff like that online, so I thought, you know, I'll give my 2 cents. I just basically expected to maybe build some friendships and, you know, share advice on a smaller scale. And that was fine with me because it was fun. I mean, I started out with a cheap little, you know, the cheapest camera you could find at Best Buy, and I was doing the videos in then we were in an apartment and just a little room, not talking too loud because I didn't want anybody to hear me. And it's just kind of weird, you know, over time becomes very normal, so.
What do you wish you knew before you went into the field?
In terms of news broadcasting?
I would say both. News broadcasting first, though.
Okay. As far as news, I don't think anybody explained to me just how crazy the schedules really get. I mean, I think you all know that morning news does exist, but it never really went through my head that it really requires waking up at like 1 or 2 in the morning to pull that off. So that was surprising to me. And just it's really the kind of career where there's not a quote-unquote good shift. If what you're doing is closely tied to a newscast, you're going to be early morning, you're going to be late night, you're going to be weekends, and when you're starting out, you're definitely going to be holidays as well. So, I mean, it's just I did it because, you know, I loved it, and I continue to look back on that job and think it was something I really loved to do. But I guess just knowing for your lifestyle how much it really becomes your life. And I guess also just the way the job search is, I think you just get out of college and expect things are going to happen for you, and that you really have to, I mean, you are your own advocate, you have to get yourself out there, and you have to push sometimes a little bit to do it, and I think if you want it bad enough, it can definitely happen for you. On the beauty broadcast side of things, what I wish I would have known first is a lot. It's hard to fathom the broad audience that you get. And if you guys ever browse through, say, the comments section of a YouTube video, you know, people can be brutal out there. And just like people can be brutal to, you know, newscasters or any public figure, you know, people don't hesitate to share what they feel. And especially with the anonymity of the internet, if people are replying to you on, you know, Facebook and you don't know them, or they're replying to your YouTube videos, they'll say whatever they want. And they'll have more guts online than they would in person, chances are. So I guess just being ready for feedback, positive and negative. Would have never predicted all the positive feedback, but at the same time, it's hard to prepare yourself for the negative too.
How did you build your audience with that?
Well, I guess it was as I mentioned, it was a pretty slow growth process, and I know right now a lot of you may not be familiar with all these makeup videos that are out on YouTube, but there's tons of people making them now. When I started, there weren't as many people making those kinds of videos, so that helped me stand out more, I think, because when it all began, there weren't as many to compete with, so to speak. But in terms of building an audience, one of the main things is probably listening to what they want to see. When people would ask me, can you do a video focusing on this product, or can you show me how to do this? I listened to that feedback. I did it from the start, and I keep doing it now. And I think that is hugely helpful. People watch you for the information, but they want to see that there's interaction. You know what I mean? So whether that's, you know, somebody can tweet me and tell me, you know, this would be a great video idea for you. I've done close to 800 videos now, and they didn't all come from my own head. So I think really taking advantage of the interactive nature of the online community, blogs and YouTube, and having all of those social networks working, having, you know, ways to pump out your video. As soon as I post something, it's tweeted, it's Facebooked, it's wherever I can put it, and I think that has helped in the sharing aspect as well.
What did you do with your resume that set you apart from others when you first?
Uh-oh. Should we lose you?
No, I heard the first part of that, I think. What's the question? What did you do with your resume to set you apart from others when you first applied for a job?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think a big thing on my resume that helped me, especially considering that I was trying to get into a market that was maybe a little bit high for a person just getting out of college, was having an internship at an actual TV station. I mean, that built my resume tape. When I was at Monmouth, we had a TV station that put out like a newscast once a week. It wasn't great, but my internship gave me the opportunity to eventually do stories that were airing, you know, on the news that night. I did it at KHQA. I think that's a station you guys get. But it's a small station, and interning at a small station, you know, they need the help. They need all the extra, you know, manpower they can get. So once I got comfortable with the camera, they were sending me out, you know, to one-man band some stories, and that built my resume tape up quite a bit and gave me some professional-looking stuff to have on it. And it also just allowed me to experience the newsroom environment and, you know, news directors and the other staff. I mean, I learned a ton from that. So I would advise, you know, I don't know if that's a requirement for you guys at Western, but an internship is a very good experience, and mine was just over the course of a summer.
Another question from Brittany. What made you decide after all the years you worked at News 3 that you wanted to try something different?
Well, for most of my time at News 3, I also had this side project going on. I would say after my first year at the station, that was when I started to get into YouTube, and slowly that started to grow, and it just captured more of my attention and more of my time, and the growth of the YouTube channel and the income of the YouTube channel. It just, the TV station couldn't compete in those ways for me, and just the excitement I had with, you know, every day is something new, I can create what I want. The news component was taking up a big chunk of my time, and doing morning news, it was a very odd time of the day as well, an odd schedule to be waking up in the middle of the night and that sort of thing. So, while I really felt in the end that I was leaving something I really did love doing morning news. I think it suited my personality, and it was fun, you know. It was the fun newscast of all the ones that we put out on the air. But it was kind of like, I loved two things, but I loved doing this beauty broadcast stuff more, and I felt very invested in it as well. You know, my beauty broadcast stuff is a pure one-woman show. I am the only person really with a hands-on role with what I'm doing, and so I take a lot of pride in that, and I'm just fortunate to have gained the online support that I have to be able to take it to a full-time level.
Going off of that, what are some of the major duties that you need to perform daily now that you're doing this blog?
Well, like I said, I've got my main YouTube channel, I've got a blog, I've got a second YouTube channel not related to makeup, and just keeping up with the correspondence. So, I mean, every day I am doing something pertaining to one of these things. I like to sometimes shoot several videos in one day, and then maybe edit one in the afternoon. Uploading in itself, uploading HD quality videos can take several hours, even if it's less than 10 minutes, so that's a chunk of time as well. So I think I kind of plan my week out with, okay, I want to get maybe 3 videos up this week. What days do I want to stagger them out on? And just kind of plan each day. Each day isn't identical, but it all has its own sort of duties. And I try to put out like a blog post once a day. You might think, well, if you've got the time, why not put up a new YouTube video every single day? You know, if you've got the viewers and the time. But really, I've found that people can't keep up if you put out too much. So I kind of give a day or 2-day gap in between my videos, because I feel like it gives people time to see it and then be ready to see something else by the time a couple days have passed.
They're also wanting advice. What should they really get into while they're still in college before they go and seek a position out in the industry?
I think as many sort of speech-related things, as much as like looking back, I really didn't like speech, but classes that you can take that do involve any element of public speaking or getting up in front of people and speaking, the sooner you can get comfortable with that, the better. And simply watching the news, you get so much out of watching the news, because you can even sense like, okay, that was a really awkward interaction between this anchor and the weather guy. Why did that have to happen? Or, you know, you find good things about the way things are executed too. And a lot of it's coming into your brain without you even thinking about it. And so watching local news, watching national news, reading the newspaper, I mean, you think you're going to be out covering just the most hot, awesome stories, but really, a lot of times you're going to be going to a city council meeting, and it doesn't kill you to get a little bit well versed on what, you know, just the local stuff is all about, because you're going to start out in local news. The internship was critical for me because it supplemented a lot of what I didn't have where I went to school. You may have a great setup for doing news at your school, but the sooner you can feel, I guess, a comfort level of speaking in front of people, the better. And it doesn't have to come naturally. I was nervous as heck when I started doing live shots on local TV. I was like, live TV, I don't have words in front of me, you know, like I'm gonna spend some time talking off the top of my head. Can I do that? Like, it was terrifying at first, and just because that scares you doesn't mean that this isn't for you. It's definitely a comfort level, and it only comes with time, getting more comfortable with it. So just because you start out and you think it's the scariest thing ever, it can get better. So
there's a good follow-up to that. Do you still get nervous in front of the camera, or are you past that?
I really don't get nervous anymore, especially like thinking about by the time I started doing like morning news, which was of course all live TV, I was really comfortable with it. And I remembered my first sort of time spent anchoring was doing like some Saturday night newscasts, and I got really nervous when I was first starting out doing that. And so I just told myself that the only people who can see me is the guy out there on the floor, the guy over here in the weather department. We'll just pretend that's it. And it helped.
Yeah. Well, why did you choose broadcasting to begin with? Because we know the hours are terrible, the pay's not great. So why exactly did you personally get into the field?
Cut off a little bit there at the end, but I think I heard basically what you were asking. Yeah. And I mean, I chose to get into this for a couple of really basic reasons. I think I like to talk and I like to write, and I grew up loving watching the news. Kind of a strange thing for a little kid, but I mean, every day before I went to school, I'd watch like a half hour of local morning news. And so I was kind of fascinated with it, I think. And I just knew that I like to talk to people, I like to meet new people, and I like the thought of something different every day. If you are a person who likes, you know, you may have a similar routine every day, but different subject matter, different things to think about and work with, and different people to work with all the time, news definitely provides that. If you're the type of person who doesn't like your routine messed with too much, and you don't feel like you're very flexible when it comes to, you know, you could be out working on a story and then you get a call from the news director, hey, you gotta go do this thing now, drop whatever you were working on. I mean, then if that bothers you, then maybe it's not so much for you. But another thing to remember is that there are tons of different careers like at a TV station beyond just the on-air positions. There are positions in production that might be making the commercials. You know, there are positions in sales that are selling the advertising space for that station. And there are producers who are forming and crafting, you know, the whole newscast basically. And it's different personality types in every one of those arenas basically. So it's not just the on-air stuff.
Now, you were a producer before you were a news anchor, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this is a writing class. Could you talk a little bit about how important the producing and writing aspect of this business is?
Oh, yeah. I remember when I got pegged with the assignment of producing the weekend newscast, I was like, no, I did not want to produce. That's what I was thinking. But of course I was like, sure, I'll do it. But it's so much writing, so much, I guess, sort of vision in terms of how the whole newscast is going to get put together. But when I came out of doing that, after I produced for several months and then started reporting, my writing was so much better. I was able to write stories way faster because you know, when you're in charge of producing a newscast, you've got multiple things to keep an eye on and put together. And so I think it made a huge difference for me. The writing, you're on a deadline so often with news, and sometimes, you know, there's not even time to get, you know, maybe full approval, or for an anchor to pour over your script and make changes and edit things out. So the ability to be a good, concise writer, I got very used to when I started reporting, having so much of my script like cut out and the anchor saying, you know, we don't need all this stuff. So the ability to just have the facts and make it very conversational and easy to listen to is super important. You come from like almost high school and certain maybe research papers that you've done where, you know, you try to draw things out and make it longer, and then you get into news and everything just gets shorter. And I mean, I always keep in the back of my mind when I was in news that people are probably half listening, you know? They're making breakfast, they're getting dressed, they're taking a shower. You probably don't have someone's full attention, especially now, like in the evening. Somebody's probably sitting there with a laptop on their lap, eating a piece of pizza, talking to the person over there, and they're not really listening. So you've got to make it so easy. You've got to make the information so easy to digest for the viewer and very simplified. So that was a big adjustment to make.
Yeah, I am an overnight producer as well,
and
I come from having to deal with all of that and making beat calls and being all by yourself in the newsroom all night and working the crazy shifts.
Yeah.
So I definitely can identify with your experience there. We do have a fun question. What is the most interesting thing you've seen or done in your career so far?
Ooh, seen or done. Wow, well, first thing that pops into my mind is something I was able to do with relation to the YouTube side of things. You never know who's watching your videos, and I did a review on some products from a brand called Mally Beauty, and she is one of the main makeup artists that works on Beyonce. And so I just, you know, bought some products, did a video on it, and then I get contacted by her and she says, I'm having an event for beauty bloggers in New York. I want to fly you out here to take part in that. And so I was like, holy cow, you know, I am so there. So and this was when I was still working in the news. Like, I took a couple days off and went and did this, and, you know, got to really experience her skills and learn from a real pro in the industry. And so it just goes to show it's the internet. Anybody could be watching.
How do you expand your online presence?
I think it's about not having just one thing that you're doing online, but having multiple things, you know, on the same subject matter or whatever. But early on, I realized that it would be beneficial for me to not just have a YouTube channel, but to have a blog that accompanied that. Something where I could expand with different information, give people just another outlet for the information, and using all the social media to your advantage. I've heard recently that Pinterest, I don't know if anybody's on there, but that Pinterest tends to drive more traffic to blogs than Twitter does these days. And so all of those things, you know, can be very good for gaining new followers. One person shares it with people who have never heard of you before, and suddenly you've got a few new followers. So I think having your information on more than one platform.
That's great advice. Tyler, did you have a question? Same question about online presence. Did anyone else have any questions for Emily? No, that's been great, Emily. Thank you very much for talking to us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.